Fireplace time again. It's fireplace time. Fireplace time. So we just concluded Central Committee. It was almost 3 hours long, which actually I've been to longer. So that wasn't too terrible. It wasn't too terrible. I always attend though because I want to know what's going on. I like participating in this. There's a lot of filibustering. Usually the filibustering, there was some at the end there, that there was a little bit of filibustering from the progressive side of the House. That's usually where the filibustering seems to come from. But tonight's filibustering was, wow. So the South OC crew tried to make a move. Oh, they tried to make a move. And I love how they just generalize, and they're like, the people of South OC. I'm in South OC. I'm in South OC. Ian's in South OC. Jonathan's in South OC. The people of South OC. I grew up in Mission Viejo, y'all. I probably lived here a lot longer than most of you. The people of South OC wanted to try and have the Central Committee meetings moved to South OC 4 to 6 times a year, claiming, it's a commute. It is a commute, but you know what? Most of us are in a socioeconomic bracket where we're used to commuting because we have to drive all over the place. We have to drive all over the place. And most of the participants from South OC are not in terrible financial shape, let's be real. And even if you did have a hardship burden and needed, public transportation, we've got the train running right up the 5. And it goes right up to Orange and Anaheim. It can be done. Anyway, I found that to be a very interesting political maneuver. And it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the money that goes into the party comes from the women of South Orange County, let's be real. I like to call them the money club. That's the money club. But yeah, so it was a hot day. The last couple of days have been so hot. And we're walking blocks and it gets like, there have been to end, you got the mask on your face for like 8 hours, right? Whenever I get back into these, I totally forgot about this from Georgia. Whenever I get back into these campaigns, I don't usually wear masks that long because I don't go places very often. And if I do, they're totally open air. Or it's a situation where it's open air and I'm showing my vaccination card. If it's a little tighter, like it's not a beach, right? It's not a beach or I'm not like on a hiking trail or something. If I'm going to an actual club, it's the kind of club where you have to show your vaccination card and there's lots of open outdoor space. And fortunately, living in California, we are able to get away with that. So walking blocks with a mask on my face in hot weather and there's very little shade. There were a couple of times standing on the doorsteps trying to talk, and I get winded because I'm like going up long driveways and I'm walking uphill, downhill, all sorts of stuff in the heat. There was a couple of times where I had to say, do you mind if I stand a little bit back in the shade over here while I talk to you because I'm just too hot. I'm like overheating. I've got this mask on my face. The sun is beating down on me. The sweat was dripping all down my forehead and into my eyes, which then makes the sunscreen go into my eyes. I got so hot today. Of course, now it's cool. It cools down. Like California is a desert. California is a desert, so there's weather extremes. It's so cool now that I need my fireplace to heat up my hips, because I'm in pain. So I'm warming everything up. But when I was walking blocks this afternoon, I had sweat not only just pouring down my face and my scalp, but dripping down my spine. It's dripping down my spine under my shirt. I got hot. I drank, I think, 3 bottles of water during the hottest part of the day. But I only did 6 hours today because it was Central Committee night. It was Central Committee night. And I missed it last month because last month when they did Central Committee, it was like the first week that I was walking blocks in Laguna. So I was going to try and log in after my shift, but I didn't get home until like past 9, and they might have still been going, but if they were still going at that point, it was because of filibustering, because that's what they do. That's how they do. It was a chess move. That was a chess move. That was a chess move. And it was like watching the political experts in this county play chess. It was, they were trying to make a move to bring half of the meetings, 4 to 6 meetings, to South OC. 4 to 6, considering we only have 11. We only have 11 every year. So, all right, 4 to 6 meetings down to South OC. And I do, Victor and I often do not see eye to eye, but I think that was a smart move to do your counter amendment. So he had an amendment saying, well, if we're going to move the meetings around, it should be moved around equitably. It should go to each vice chair. I mean, it's just kind of a confusing and silly thing to do. But all I can think is that is not a logical explanation of, oh, we don't like the traffic. We're not getting enough representation. First of all, we have lower amounts of registered Democrats in our part of the county, period. So it makes more sense that it would be more convenient for the side. It's not even, it's central. I know Laura's like, if you look at the map, Irvine's actually central. No, it's actually not. It's the Mason-Dixon line. Irvine is the Mason-Dixon line. And when you look at Irvine below, it bottlenecks, right? So the top part of the county is wider and more densely populated. And then once you get to Irvine and below, it bottlenecks into the Saddleback Valley and the coastal regions. And I think that if you were to look at the distribution of population and actual registered Democrats, the South has less of both. Okay? It has less of both. So yes, it makes sense to be centrally located in the Orange, Anaheim, even Santa Ana. If you want to go a little bit south, Santa Ana, that's my suggestion. If you want to go a little bit south, but it's done. It's done. They found new office space. It got voted on. That was a silly proposal. It actually, I'll be real. It seems like a very minivan mom South OC thing to do. A very, I need it my way kind of thing to do. I was a little embarrassed that y'all kept saying, well, those of us from South OC, because you're supposed to be representing everybody from South OC. You're supposed to be representing, you were voted in to represent South OC. And I didn't agree with that. Ian didn't agree with that. He's from Irvine. Jonathan didn't agree with that. There's like so many people that did not agree with that. And the idea that you're somehow going to get more people to attend Central Committee, you might get more performative bullshit like they do up in North OC when they do this. I know we call everything above Irvine North. I'll be real with you guys. We think you're all North. Even though some of you are West, some of you are Central, and some of you are actually North, right? Everything above Irvine to us down here is North. You're all North. You're all North. But yeah, it does not make sense to move meetings down to a less populated area of the county where there are less registered Democrats. That doesn't make any goddamn sense, except that's where a lot of the money comes from. That's where a lot of people who feel like they need to be repaid for their donations reside. That was an interesting move. And it didn't work. It got voted down. So they got new office space. That sounds exciting. So they expanded their office. They made a good deal. It sounds like they actually did some really fiscally responsible dealing in this situation. And as it stands right now, the actual central committee meetings are when they go back in person, which I don't know when that's going to happen. But when they go back in person, they will go back to the same location where we were having them. If you keep moving things around, people aren't going to know where it is. But anyway, that took like an hour. That whole thing took like an hour. Then there was the whole political debacle over should clubs be able to speak and represent and stuff. And I have mixed feelings about this. I feel like there's so much filibustering that already happens at these meetings, and they sometimes drag out to 4 or 5 hours long. Why would you add more stuff to the agenda? So yeah, I get, if you want to put emphasis on the clubs, the highlight a club thing, that's kind of cool, highlight a club. Oh, where are my tissues? Whatever. I was getting a runny nose at night. Highlight a club, sure, but 28, 29 clubs? Especially when there's, okay, so former Vice Chair Victor is the one who's really making a big deal about this. I don't know why. I don't know what was discussed in the background or what's going on here, but I don't know why. Okay, let me tell you how that sort of interaction gets perceived. Let me tell you how that is sort of, because I know that you ultimately will watch this because you all spy on me so much. So anyway, let me tell you how that gets perceived. What it is perceived as is you, a male, demonstrating your machismo, is questioning a female leader and her judgment of the format that we have evolved into given the growth of this party, because we have more Democrats and so we have more representation, we have more people attending. There are time constraints. She is managing the time. She is managing the meeting. She's managing everything she can to make sure there's a fair and democratic process in the party, as well as highlighting the efforts that need to be focused on and trying to appease everybody who is a volunteer, everybody who's participating in this. But we get the weirdest ass complaints. I'm not being recognized. You're not listening to me. You're not listening. So I typed in the chat. Why don't you just use the announcements section? They literally have an announcements section at the end of the meeting. If you didn't get scheduled to speak during the main body of the call, use the announcements section. So that he interrupts the freaking thing again before we get into, or before or during, and still says, we should be able to speak. There was the announcement section. So we go through the announcement section, and it was crickets. What the hell did you want to tell us? What was so important that you interrupted the call twice to bring this up? What was so goddamn important? What did you want to tell us about your club? And which club did you want to talk about? Because at last I heard, the Latino, Chicano, Hispanic Dem Club hasn't been meeting. Have you been meeting? Are you going to reboot? Was there something you wanted to tell us? Because you had an announcement section, you should have told us. You could have raised your hand and said, I have an announcement about my club. You totally could have done that. Was it the Feel the Burn Club? Jenny Lynn was on the call. She didn't raise her hand either. Was there an announcement? What did you want to tell us? Why did you make a big deal about saying, I need every club to have time on this call? Is that the goal, you guys? Is to make the calls as long as fucking possible? Is that your goddamn goal?